The Zimbabwe International Sevens tournament is brought to you by Spa, NMB Bank and Lion Lager. One of the world's most magnificent sights, the Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe in full force. South Africa's northern neighbour is already a prime tourist stopover. Now Zimbabwe is on the road to establishing itself as a popular sports destination. Already the country is host to a number of international cricket teams and since last year, home of the Zim International Zimbabwe Sevens. Hello everyone, Arnold Gertz here. Welcome to highlights of the second edition of this tournament, which this year featured 3 local teams, a number of South African outfits including a star-studded elite performance development squad and a major breakthrough international sides in the form of Hong Kong and Georgia.
The first tournaments definitely sort of captured the minds of the public, and it gave Zimbabwe Sevens rugby an opportunity to be seen in the public spotlight. And having the likes of Georgia, Hong Kong and a very strong South African EPD side means that we can get bigger and better, and in years to come hopefully we can continue that momentum.
2013 is a watershed year for Zimbabwe as they will 1. Try again to qualify as a core team on the HSBC IRB 7 circuit and 2. Prepare for the Sevens Rugby World Cup in Moscow in June. First though, they must finish in the top 4 of the second tier competition at the Hong Kong Sevens later this month. The timing of the Zim International Sevens was therefore perfect as it allowed coach Gilbert Namutsama valuable time together with his team. Zimbabwe now also had a squad of contracted players playing and doing well in the home event. That would be a huge boost.
This tournament is going to be a tough one for us. Very good teams coming through, but it's exactly the competition that we need. For us to be part of the best, we've got to play against the best. It is a good build-up for us. The more games that we play before the World Cup, the better for us.
Yeah, it's a good preparation for us. We probably from this tournament will know where exactly we are. So if we do well, we'll go into Hong Kong with a lot of confidence, and you want to do well there to be able to get into the circuit.
Great ambitions for the Zimbabwe Cheetahs team, but like all things in life, money is required to make it work. Zimbabwe Rugby has been fortunate with sponsors like Spa, Lion Lager and NMB who made the tournament possible. But to prepare for core team qualifications in London in May and the World Cup in June in Moscow, the squad needed additional resources to ensure that they would be competitive. On the eve of the tournament, a fundraising dinner was held at Cresta Lodge in Harare to garner up support for the Cheetahs. Injured Springbok Sevens captain Kyle Brown gladly accepted an invite as guest speaker. Kyle gave the guests an insightful look into what makes the Box Sevens team tick and shared some important thoughts and ideas on the game of sevens. To end the evening, an auction which raised just over $10,000 money which would come in very handy as the Cheetahs, like the Blitzbokke, prepare for the World Cup.
I do believe that this tournament's going to play a massive role in just maintaining the momentum through from Las Vegas into Hong Kong. I mean, we've always, not always, but we've quite often struggled to fire in the first of the 2 legs. And we're hoping that this is going to help change that and get the guys moving before the Hong Kong tournament in 2 weeks' time. Zimbabwe will join the Blitzbokke and Kenya as the continent's representatives in Hong Kong and at the World Cup. The Zim International Sevens had already made a major contribution towards the growth of the game in Zimbabwe, but the ZRU and sponsors were very keen on the tournament, leaving a legacy. Ahead of the event, the international teams, Hong Kong, Georgia, as well as the Leopards, Elifa Buffaloes and the Pumas from South Africa, travelled to the Makvubu settlement just outside Harare to conduct a coaching clinic at the Tafari High School, where they spent time with children from 8 schools who are in the ZRU's development program.
Would like to stimulate the growth of the sport in this part of Zimbabwe, because they are athletic enough and we think that they can do well. So this program basically tries to coach them properly from the young age and basically identify talent. Once we've got talent, with the help of our sponsors backers in, we can now give selected kids scholarship to study and play the sport, hence being, future stars.
Rugby is a very social sport, as you know, and it's very important for the top players to leave something behind for the kids to grab on and hold on to and follow the footsteps that they have gone through.
And to come here today, the standard of rugby played by these kids is extremely high. and quite a few of us, including myself, got done playing touch just now.
A great initiative by the ZRU, and well done to the internationals for supporting. Back now to the Harare Sports Club for the opening day of the SPAR International Zimbabwe Sevens, a Pool D fixture between Zimbabwe's second stringers, the Goshawks, and last year's losing finalists, the Ilifa Northern Buffaloes from Mpumalanga. For the Goshawks, a lot at stake as some of the players were pushing for a place in the Zimbabwe Cheetahs for the Hong Kong tournament. Here's Hugh Bladen.
So what is happening here is that Mpumalanga are far stronger in the forwards, and a very good try by Johan van der Walt. You can see how they're pushing the Goshawks off the ball completely, but they've recovered very well. This is good play by the Goshawks. They're very elusive and terrific play there as Teddy Schwarter gets in, and that is the winning try. Celebrations all round.
Next up, the much-anticipated Pool C clash between the South African Elite Performance Development Squad, previously playing under the banner of the SARU Sevens Academy. The side included 7 fully capped Blitzbokke, including Siabelo Senantla, who scored the winning try for the Springbok Sevens in Las Vegas against Samoa. The rest, of course, is history as they went on to win the tournament. Senantla, Philip Simon, Putte Engelbrecht and Tsotso Mbavani were all part of the Las Vegas squad, but brought to Harare to get more game time. Blitzbokke coach Paul True travelled to Harare himself to follow the progress of these players, as well as that of Stevie Hunt, who had returned after a lengthy injury layoff. The EPD did not have it all their own way and were forced to work hard for a 26-12 win, but most pleasing was the form of the man himself, Hunt.
It's obviously we're practicing, full time at the moment, but it's just not the same when you go out there and actually play the game. You're getting up, hitting the deck after attack or getting up again. So it was obviously awesome to get out there. It was just a little bit tough, but I'm excited for the next one.
Kenya travelled to Harare with the same intentions, and that was to look at a number of younger contenders for a place in the squad for Hong Kong. Their first match, a Pool B fixture against Zambezi Warriors, the third-tier selection.
Well, the try by Felix Ayanga put Kenya into the lead by 5 points to 0. All these players aspiring to get into the World Sevens picture. So a lot at stake here and some very powerful play. And a lovely breakaway by Charles Omondi. 12-7.
That, of course, meant that Zimbabwe had scored just before the break. And here the Kenyans come again.
Well, the Kenyans really dominating possession and territory. Very nice little dodging run there. So you can see the continuity isn't too bad, but just the defences at 6s and 7s, and Leonard Dongo makes the final score 26-7.
Next up, the hosts and defending champions, the Zimbabwe Cheetahs, up against their neighbours Zambia. A massive year for Zimbabwe Sevens. After this, the Hong Kong Sevens, where they must finish in the top 4 of the second-tier competition to reach the core team qualification event in London in May. And, of course, later this year, the Sevens Rugby World Cup. The first try by Fortune Chipenda converted 7-0. Hugh Bladen.
Quite clear that the Zimbabwe Cheetahs have all the running, and there's a good runner by Njabula and Klovu. And it looks like Zambia could be in a little bit of trouble here.
The shirt says Quicksilver, and so was his team.
Well, the coordination is good again, and Klovu doing the running, getting the ball on the inside, and an easy run-in for Ndebele. Jaffet Ndebele.
That made it 40 points to 0, and all the victors in round 1. The upset of the opening round, the Goshawks' victory over the SA Buffaloes. Into round 2 now, and the Goshawks up against the Pumas. The Goshawks looking for a second win to book a place in the quarters.
The Pumas always very competitive in any area of rugby, and a great burst away there trying to buy Werner Koch for the Pumas, playing in the predominantly white strip.
Quick hands, quick feet, always works.
Yeah, it's good to see the support here too. Goshawks equalised just before the break for a half-time score of 7-all. Then took the lead in the second half, 14 points to 7. Pumas then came back from 14-7 to score 2 more tries. This one by Neil Janssen van Rensburg.
That clinches a 17 points to 12 win for the Pumas. Next up, a first appearance for the Tuks Bulls Academy, where coach Marinus van der Walt is doing great work to promote this form of the game in Blue Bull country. They were up against the Pik Leopards Academy in a Pool C fixture. In their opening match against the Saru PD side, the Pik Leopards showed a great deal of promise, eventually losing 26-21 though. In this match, they were far too powerful for their Pretoria counterparts, running in 5 tries. 2 in the first half for a 10-0 lead, 3 more in the second, including this great display of pace by Arno Venter and David de Koker respectively. A great opportunity for the men from Potchefstroom.
We've got loads of young guys, but full of experience and full of running rugby. So from here we have to capitalize on our weaknesses and just bring it tomorrow. We can bring everything and just give it all.
Hong Kong were very welcome first-time visitors to the SPAR Zimbabwe International Sevens and jumped at the opportunity to gain some welcome game time ahead of the Hong Kong Sevens, which they host. They were up in Pool B against the Zambezi Warriors. Kam Shing Yin opened the scoring for the visitors from the Far East, 7-0 up and looking good for the Hong Kong outfit. The Zambezi Warriors came back with a try, but a second score before half-time put the men from Hong Kong in the lead 14-7. In the second half, Hong Kong added 2 more tries. This effort by Captain Rowan Varty securing the 26-14 victory. Georgia was the second team from outside the continent to feature in the SPAR International Zimbabwe Sevens. Georgia has a strong 15s culture and took part in the 2003 World Cup, where they played against the Springboks and are currently the top country in the second tier Six Nations. Now this Eastern European side is also trying to build their Sevens program. They've also qualified for the Sevens Rugby World Cup in Moscow and, like Zimbabwe, also have hopes of becoming a core IRB team. 2 tries helped the Georgians to a 14-7 win over Zambia.
Yeah, I'm happy because we win this game and we have new guys. We have only 3 guys who has played the Sevens. Other guys are new, they play first game in Sevens, and I'm happy that they enjoy the game.
Round 2 featured an important victory for the Pumas over the Goshawks. The Leopards stayed on track for a quarter-final berth, while the 2 international sides, Hong Kong and Georgia, would have been very happy to open their campaign in Harare with victories. More action from the SPAR International Zimbabwe Sevens right after this. Just some of the memorable things to do up north at Victoria Falls. And that's, of course, when you're done watching the SPAR International Zimbabwe Sevens. This is the Harare Sports Club for more Day 1 highlights. And after some early morning rain showers, miraculously the skies cleared and the last round was played in brilliant sunshine. This is Pool D and the Elifa Northern Buffaloes against the Pumas in what was very much a pool decider. The Buffaloes scored 3 tries to win the match 19-12 and thus secured top position in Pool D.
Try for the Buffaloes.
Pool C and the SA Elite Performance Development Squad against the Tuks Bulls Sevens Academy. The EPD coach Paul True is looking for a big improvement on their first outing where they struggled against the Leopards. He got exactly that as the EPD squad playing in blue scored 7 tries to outclass the Tuks Bulls Academy by 45 points to 0. The old hands like Bernardo Buerta showed that they were ready to return to the Box 7 selection, while youngsters like Veja Strydom and Brandon Ashwood put their hands up for selection 2.
It's definitely good for us to see the guys, and this is an ideal opportunity also for us. I mean, 2 weeks before Hong Kong to see if these youngsters can step up to the plate and whether they can play at this level. And so this is definitely a worthy exercise for us, and the experience that they're going to gain here will be invaluable to us, especially going into the second half of the season.
The EPD squad top of Pool C and through to the quarters in the Pool B decider, Hong Kong against Kenya's Shuja.
Yeah, and a great try by Anthony Haynes. It's really good to see Hong Kong coming here to Zimbabwe. Great atmosphere here at Salisbury Sports Club. Robert Taringo for Kenya might just run this all the way now. Is it the speed or can he get the ball away? No, Robert Taringo sprints all the way. Good try by Kenya.
Both of those tries converted, so 7-all at half-time.
So a hotly contested half. In the second half, Hong Kong scored a second try to lead 12-7. Kenya then clinched the winner through a second try by Aringo to win 14-12. A solid performance by this Kenyan squad.
I think playing a nation like Hong Kong in the last game was very good for the youngsters. I mean, Hong Kong are playing very, very well defensively, and they've improved over the years. And we had some very, very good tries. I mean, there's a lot of learning going on for the players, and we're getting better with every game. So we're looking forward to tomorrow, and pick it up from where we left.
The final pool match of the opening day of the second Spar International Zimbabwe Sevens, and the hosts, the Cheetahs, up against Georgia. Again, a pool decider after both teams won their first and second round matches, respectively.
Georgia always play with great enthusiasm, but this is really good for Zimbabwe, and it is Fortune Chipendu who trots around behind the posts.
The conversion's spot on, so leading 7-0.
In the second half, Zimbabwe added 2 more tries to make it 21-0, and at this stage, Zimbabwe well ahead. This try by Simondo to seal a convincing victory.
26 points to 7.
It's always difficult to make sure that you convert what you want to do into reality on the field, and sometimes your concentration can get disturbed, but we were very happy with the way we executed today.
The final round results, the Buffaloes recorded their second win for second spot in Pool D, a show of force by the EPD squad. Kenya and the Zim Cheetahs gave the international teams a good idea of the strength of sevens rugby in Africa. The quarter-final lineup and Georgia with a very tough assignment against Kenya, an all-South African affair between the Leopards and the Buffaloes in Prospect 2. A feature of this event, the commitment of the teams to travel to this country just to play 5 games of sevens rugby. Some South African teams are fortunate enough to fly, but spare a thought for the likes of Zambia, who make the trip across the border by bus, while the Leopards, Elifa Buffaloes and Pumas make a 2,500-kilometer round trip from Pretoria. The Pumas and the Buffaloes this year also donated kit to the boys from the Ambari Rugby Academy, making a very long trip certainly worthwhile.
The Pumas is a small union, and we love to give something back to show us that we care for the Sevens Rugby Union, and also for Zimbabwe players that want to play the Sevens Rugby.
The second day of the Spar Zimbabwe International Sevens tournament, a wet day in Harare. In the first quarter, Kenya Shuja against Georgia. The Kenyans struck early with 2 tries and a 12-0 lead.
One of the great features about Kenyan rugby is that their sevens has improved out of all recognition. They're competitive in the world level, and they're competitive here against Georgia as they release Oscar Yodi to gallop over under the posts.
On top of it all, Blades, there are some large units in their sevens team as well, and quick.
Well, they've developed physically and are really a very, very competitive side. The kickoff by Yodi is fielded now by Dimitri Kaladadze. Goloshlavili quickly wrapped up by that Kenyan defence. You see they snap up anything that's going, and Felix Ayange, one of the stars of this Kenyan side, is able to outstrip the cover defence.
Counter-rucking very solid there, and that's what probably caused that pass to go astray.
Even competitive at the scrums. We did have a score by Georgia, who are in possession now, but look at all the red jerseys around. The Kenyan defence very well organised, and they've turned the ball over time and again for this runaway victory, and it's Ayange again who does the damage.
Blades, certainly an upset, as the Kenyan side is young and still developing, and of course the Georgians, an international side. The winners of the next quarter-final, the all-South African affair between the Elifa Northern Buffaloes and the Pika Leopards, would face Kenya in the semi. Still very overcast, with more rain resulting in difficult conditions at the Harare Sports Club. Blades.
You're quite right, Arnie. The conditions making it difficult for these players to string too many moves together, and there's close marking. The Mpumalanga players in the white jerseys. The Leopards in the familiar green and red. Again, you see that the marking is very close. Good line of defence there for the Leopard side. They're a little bit gentle in terms of their build-up now. Good run away, but there's also some good cover defence. It's Bjorn Base who's making inroads, but unfortunately the forward pass away to Louis Ruiz. So it's all to no avail. No score in the game, and a very tight affair. Worked up there nicely by Willem Martens. Once again, difficult for Johan Steiger to keep his footing, and the penalty goes the way of the Picker Leopards.
Now, decision time. Do they run it from here or do they go for poles?
Well, it has been a tight affair. We're going down into the final moments of the game, and it is going to be Corne Dibbenach, and he kicks the goal. Very unusual in sevens rugby. The Leopards 3-0.
Nice hanging kickoff.
There goes the siren for the end of the game. All they've got to do is see the ball into touch. Strong play again by Corne Dibbenach. And so a very tight affair ends in a victory for the guys from Potchefstroom.
Good luck to the Buffaloes. Very well done.
So the first semi-final confirmed. Kenya against the Leopards. Into the next half of the draw, the host Zimbabwe Cheetahs against Hong Kong. 2 early tries had the scores level at 7-all, but then it became one-way traffic as Zimbabwe taught Hong Kong a sevens rugby lesson.
Well, a lot of expats in this Hong Kong side, and so they may not be quite as fit as the Zimbabweans are. Leitau's been dominant for Zimbabwe in this tournament. The penalty goes, quickly taken by Leitau, and a good run and good support off the ball here by Tangai. Too bad Namadira. Despite the efforts of Rowan Varty, Namadira is awarded the try.
It wasn't too bad, it was too good.
The second half now with the Cheetahs leading by 14 points to 7. But once Zimbabwe get on the run, they just have too much speed and firepower. Leitau again away there, and the race away is pretty easy for Rabba Chitaquindo. And the Zimbabwean Cheetahs, they're enjoying themselves. You can see they're moving the ball around. This is sevens rugby. Run the ball into space, and then you can have some real fun. Leitau, who pops up in all sorts of positions, but his continuity is pretty good. See how he lays the ball back. Little step, a little look, a little burst through the gap. And it's fantastic running there by Tsimonde.
Lovely work by the Zimbabweans, loved by the home crowd, and so they should. 35 points to 7 it was. The Zimbabwe Cheetahs enter the semi, where they would meet the winners of the last quarter-final, that between the Zimbabwe Goshawks and the South African Elite Performance Development Squad, who were the overwhelming favourites to win the match. The South Africans coached by Blitzbokke coach Paul True, and we pick up the action with a score at 7-all.
One would expect that the EPD side have too much organisation and power. Here's Vanderkoek, one of the stars of the Atlantic Sevens at schoolboy level, and he really is a talent who could well move up into the Blitzbokke scene in very short time.
It looked like he had a spare gear to go there as well, Blaines.
So South Africa starting to stamp their authority. It's worked out there by Vanderkoek, operating in a scrum half position. Got some very quick players on the outside as well. Sonata is one of them. Here he is in action. Sonata looking on the inside, then decides to go, outstripping the cover.
Again, puts it into third gear and speeds it up, and then slows it down nicely and weighs up all his options.
Well, Dani Gaba once said to me, what's the problem with sevens? All you've got to do is have pace and run into space.
Simple.
So the Goshawks are a little bit outclassed here. You can see they just don't have a line of attack. Sonata making another good defensive situation there, and Sonata working very hard, and eventually it's Jason Creel who snaps up the loose ball. All coming from the pressure by the South African EPD side.
The sun coming out to shine on the Harare Sports Club.
Colourful support. And here's Cook again, holds it up just long enough for Brandon Asherwood to run into the open space.
A very handsome victory it was in the end for the young South African squad, and gee, what sevens talent there is coming out of the Rainbow Nation. The quarterfinals, apart from the Leopards-Buffaloes clash, the rest all a bit one-sided. But having said that, the standard of rugby at this year's SPAR Zimbabwe International Sevens certainly much higher than in its inauguration just last year in 2012. The semis will without doubt, looking at those results, produce some fireworks. More Sevens rugby right after this, if you stay right where you are. The sights and sounds from one of the world's wonders, Victoria Falls. In addition to great rugby action, all the more reason to visit this wonderful country. Just in its second year, the tournament has already proven to be a major success. The addition of the two international sides, as well as the strong team brought by Paul True, testimony to the importance of the event. Zimbabwe has not escaped the worldwide economic woes, emphasizing the massive role of sponsors. Over the last number of years, SPAR has made an invaluable contribution to the game in Zimbabwe and did so again in 2013.
We're very happy with the turnout, and we're happy that we've had international teams wanting to participate in this tournament, and I'm hoping that it'll keep growing from here. It's great to have Hong Kong here and other international teams, Georgia, and it's good to see that the competition has increased. We've qualified for the World Cup, as you know, and SPAR is very proud to be associated with the Cheetahs side and being part of their program to get to the World Cup this year. So we're looking forward to see what they do in Hong Kong end of this month, and then hopefully again in June in Moscow.
Admirable work by the sponsors. Now back to the action and into the first bowl semi-final. The Elifa Buffaloes up against Georgia. The loser would go into the Shield final.
The Georgians in the all-red strip are good on attack at the moment. Just moving the ball into space. The Buffaloes from Mpumalanga haven't quite grasped the sevens game as yet, I don't think, and so it's Marcus Vide who gets the try for the Georgians. They seem to have really settled down to the side from Georgia. They play their rugby with a great deal of passion now. Mpumalanga, they haven't got enough pace going. Not a bad little play there by Willem Martins.
Of course, the Buffaloes now on the board, so they're playing with a bit more confidence. Martins picks it up again.
Georgian defence is not too bad, but Louis Ruiz ran himself off the ball very well here for the Buffaloes to go into the lead.
So they may have Georgia on their mind, but the South African boys in the lead.
Still in possession. This is vital that they keep that area of their game going, and that's not going to help their cause whatsoever. The toe ahead there by Bitsadze. Good pick up by the Georgian number 2, and he gets in for a try.
To avoid damage to the pitch, where they will be playing a cricket match in about 6 weeks' time, the actual playing field was brought closer to the stand, so our cameras couldn't quite get to that left-hand corner. But with Hugh Bladen describing the action, you don't really need the cameras.
Georgia playing with a lot more confidence in this bowl semi-final. And eventually it is Tsesvadze who gets over for the try.
And that was indeed the winning try for Georgia. A very successful semi for them. So the first bowl semi-final done and dusted. The loser would go into the Shield final. Hong Kong are the current Asian Sevens champions and will play in the core 16-team competition at the Hong Kong Sevens, which of course they will host after this tournament. As a result, they've gained automatic entry to the RB core team qualification tournament in May in London, and they will also be one of the 24 teams competing in the Sevens Rugby World Cup. Participating in Zimbabwe would have been the ideal preparation for the Hong Kong lads. Ideal too for coach Dai Rees, who knows exactly what he wants from his players.
A huge opportunity for Hong Kong. 2 weeks out, we don't often get the opportunity to play against world-class Tier 1 opposition in the build-up for Hong Kong Sevens, and with a tournament 2 weeks away, we're going to be pushed to the limits with our small squad, but something we are really looking forward to. We've had a great year. We're Asian champions for the first time ever, beating Japan to the title for the first time, which gave us a huge year ahead, you know, qualifying for the top 16, making London, and really looking forward to it. However, what comes with it is the added pressure of needing to perform. Our group in Hong Kong this year is pretty special. Everybody's expectations when we drew Canada and Spain, 2 non-core sides last year, has raised. So in a funny sort of way now, the local public are expecting us to perform. But we're really looking forward to playing against the top boys in Hong Kong in 2 weeks' time.
Dai Reese, the coach of the Hong Kong 7 side, valuable preparation for his players who were very much at home in the almost tropical rainstorm conditions when they came up against the Zimbabwe Goshawks in their bowl semi-final.
The Hong Kong side in their red jerseys and a try by Tom McQueen, and they really do look to be far better organised than they did in the early part of the tournament. McQueen again prominent, nice little step there from Jones, and finally it's Anthony Haynes who dives in at the corner. So dominant play by Hong Kong. At the line out, it's McQueen getting the ball down very nicely, and the continuity is good. It's that man Anthony Haynes who races in for back-to-back tries. And Hong Kong the victors by 19 points to 0.
A very convincing and impressive victory by Dai Reese's team in the red of Hong Kong. The Goshawks would have been very disappointed, particularly noting last year's really good performance here. Cup semi-final time now, and the surprise package of the tournament, the Puka Leopards against the highly rated Kenya Shujaa. Pretty much a development side with a number of players who have appeared for the Kenyan senior side before, and some earmarked to play on the IRB 7 circuit in the future.
Strong scrumming by the Puka Leopards, the Kenyans in the red jerseys, and a good tackle that time by David de Kooker.
Good counter-rucking, and the ball coming out the opposite side.
Well, the Puka Leopards going in a bit of rhythm now. You know, they have started off, they just looked like they were a little bit at 6s and 7s, but getting the ball and giving the ball a little bit more air. Lovely little run around by Dean Haymans. Kenyans just can't get the hands on the ball. Arno Fenta. A still run by Tian Lewis, and eventually it's released there, and Vivek Leroux is able to draw first blood. That's to the Leopards.
Nippy little character that he is.
Barging run by Book Barnard. Given the way of the possession now, what can the Reds do? Drop of the shoulder there from Agavi. And the Puka Leopards in an offside position at the ruck.
All those experts could see that in the stand as well.
Yeah, the dominant tackling of the Puka Leopards is just shaking up these. It's unsettling the Kenyans, but good double around. Get the ball away to Mahaji. Little toe ahead and a pick up by a Younger. We've seen a Younger with a number of tries, and the penalty goes the way of the men in black and red. You can see the scoreboard there, 5-0. So Kenya will want to get on the board. They've been a little shaken up by this aggressive tackling by the Puka Leopards.
Robert Ringo
just having a look around to see what his options are. A Yodi, a Dongo. They're all tall, lanky lads, are these Kenyans, but a little bit like they're athletes. And then the race away too by Robert Oringo. He's been one of the stars of this Kenyan side. The conversion was successful to take the Kenyans into a 2-point lead. But here come the men in green and red, working very nicely off the ball, and a lot of runners. Now we've seen them earlier on, they just weren't doing that, and it's a strong handoff there from Arno Fenta that gets him through for the try.
So the Leopards back in the lead.
Well grabbed there by Suruja. Scrum going the way of the Kenyans, but the final whistle sees the Leopards through.
Certainly the surprise package of the tournament.
Well, you can see the celebrations going on. They came here probably a little bit of an unknown side, but for them to fight their way through to the cup final, very good indeed.
The prospect of either meeting the Zimbabwe Cheetahs or the South African Elite Development Squad in their very near future.
Yeah, we are very happy. We were considered the underdogs. We came through. We always had the belief. We received a lot of support from the union as well as the Northwest University. And we've got a guys that's very hungry to win.
But we've got to pick ourselves up because we still play the third and fourth position for the plate, which will be obviously the winner between the South African EPMD and Zimbabwe. So it will still be a very strong game. So it's still a learning curve, and we've got to pick ourselves from up. You know, taking all the positives away from this tournament. I mean, the lads have come through. And the more we play this kind of tournaments, the better for the larger tier.
The Leopards through to the finals, where they would meet the winners of the second cup semi-final between the Zimbabwe Cheetahs and the South African Elite Development Squad. The defending champions against the P-tournament favourites. A great matchup as both coaches were keen on seeing how their players would perform under this type of pressure. At the same time, it would also let them get some match practice ahead of the Hong Kong Sevens.
Well, the South African development side expected to run away with this. Snyman with a good race down. He plays centre for the Cheetahs. But here he is in the development team. Gets the ball up. And it's Stephen Hunt who's up in position to trot over for the try. A representative of the Blitzbokke.
Well, we have to find something here, and they have to find it quickly.
Yeah, everybody expecting the South African side to race away. But here, Jacques Leitao. He really has been impressive for the Zimbabwean side. Putting pressure on the young South Africans.
A real scrum-off. He gets in everywhere and worries everyone.
Well, sounds of time running out, and you can see the Zimbabweans up there on attack, but it's South Africa that get the penalty, and Bernardo Botha, desperate attempt by Leitao, and Bernardo Botha, another member of Paul Chu's Blitzbokke squad, in for that try.
He's gone totally anaerobic there, Blades. He has really had to push hard with that one.
Well, it's a very tight game here. Snyman in the centre of the line-up, but it's overthrown. But you see number 2 there, Philip Snyman. I say he normally plays centre for the Cheetahs, now doing his work in the forwards, and he's got his hands on the ball and he's holding it up very well, along with Jason Creel as well. Referee judging that it was held up long enough, and the South Africans will be relieved winners.
12 points to 7, a really solid performance, and that's against the defending champions at home. It wants to be done. So the champions against the P-tournament favourites, and a really good showing by Paul True's young side. A great lineup for the 4 finals, the 2 international sides in the Shield final, a great rivalry between Zimbabwe and Kenya to be renewed in the plate final, and then the Sevens EPD against the Leopards in the showpiece of the tournament, the Cup final. That's next, right here on your World of Champions. There isn't a better way to mix pleasure with business. This is when you travel north to the Vic Falls for, amongst others, a few nights on the banks of the Zambezi and a cruise on this mighty river. Earlier in the program, we highlighted the efforts by the organisers and sponsors of the Zim International Zimbabwe Sevens to ensure that the event leaves a legacy. This was extended to other parts of the country as well, when Zimbabwe Cheetahs player Mike Morris and the Zimbabwe Sevens commercial manager David Crotch travelled to Vic Falls to stage a number of coaching clinics. If the Zimbabwe Rugby Union's plans come off, an additional Sevens tournament could soon be hosted in this part of the world.
Victoria Falls is a very exciting place and is popular amongst people both within Zimbabwe and internationally. So to have an opportunity to bring Sevens rugby to one of the 7 wonders of the world would be a great feature and a very marketable product, I believe, for Zimbabwe Sevens rugby. Victoria Falls can host big events and is an exciting destination for people to come to. So I think we're moving in the right direction, and it will be an exciting innovation for rugby in this country.
A promise-filled prospect indeed. The possibility of having a second Sevens tournament staged in Zimbabwe up north at Vic Falls. Back in Harare in the final of the schools competition, Prince Edward up against Mbari Academy. 8 schools took part in the Sevens event for schools over 3 days. Mbari is one of the good news stories of rugby development in Zimbabwe. The academy is run by volunteers in one of the poverty-stricken parts of Harare. The youngsters, however, have shown tremendous commitment and no doubt have great talent and ability. This they underline by winning the Schools Cup final 12 points to 7 over Prince Edward. And the youngsters were certainly game for just about everything. And when we say anything and everything, it really is anything goes. This is the Mbari Haka. Stand back, All Blacks, you don't know what's coming. And Maoris all over the world quaked in their boots. Well, it brought the house down, whatever the case may have been. And it also brought the house down when Mbari got their trophy. Into the business end of the SPAR Zimbabwe International Sevens tournament and the bowl final, the Elifa South African Buffaloes against Zimbabwe's second side, the Goshawks. Last year, the Goshawks lost in the Cup semis, and they would have been disappointed in their performance this year, but would take some heart from the fact that the standard of rugby had significantly increased. Similarly disappointed were the Buffaloes, losing finalists last year. They would also have taken heart from the fact that they were leading 12-7.
Penalty given to the Goshawks, who need to take this quickly. Moved it away, and eventually it's Chigambura who finishes it off.
Nicely done, away from the breakdown point and away from the defence at the same time.
Well, a tight ball final this is, with Mpumalanga in possession, but picked up well, and another chase away by Dubé. The Buffaloes having to get back very quickly. Bit scrappy play, but it comes for Jijita. Jijita's very quick and shows a clean pair of heels.
So the Goshawks into the lead after being down, and they know that that was vital for their cause.
The Goshawks having to play this open space rugby because of the more aggressive tackling of the guys from Mpumalanga, and it's paid off.
The Goshawks would have been disappointed with their performance in the tournament, but at least there was some silverware to take back to the cabinet and the clubhouse. So the bowl final all done. Next up, the 2 international sides, Hong Kong and Georgia, for which this tournament had been an incredible learning curve. Both were keen on taking some silverware home to at least have something to show for their efforts and their long flight to Zimbabwe. Early in the first half, all tied up at 7-all.
It's the Hong Kong side in the red jerseys in possession now. It'll run forward by Nick Hewson. Good defence by Georgia. Hong Kong with not too much space to move around in this time. They need to just suck in a few defenders. Georgia's still been aggressive on defence. Good smash away there by Denaladze. Continuity is not too bad by them. Pruidze, Grinjila. Nice little ball away there by Kopedidze. And, just sneaked in front of the referee. It was Zurabi Denaladze, and gets a high five from the ball boy. Now Hong Kong in a very good position here. Alex McQueen sizing up his options, doesn't need his teammates.
Back to all square, 14 apiece.
Hong Kong have dominated possession, but Georgia, with a couple of raceway tries, they sort of get a foot to the ball and manage to put them under pressure. But here we go again with Alex McQueen, one of the stars of the Hong Kong side.
Saw the water there splashing as he went down and slid in for that try. It had rained again at the Zimbabwe Sports Grounds.
Conditions have been pretty difficult here, but the players have worked well with it. Another good run off the ball by Deneladze. Zurabi Deneladze now needs to run it next to the post. Doesn't do so because of the celebration and makes the conversion a very difficult one.
In fact, it was so difficult that it was missed. However, a confidence-boosting win for the team from Hong Kong ahead of their big tournament back home.
Our trip to Zimbabwe has been fantastic for our preparation. There's a quality tournament developing here with South Africa Academy here, Zimbabwe, Kenya, but to name 3-4 quality teams, Georgia. So it's been a really great exercise for us. Came unstuck against Zimbabwe, bad loss, but it's a wake-up call for our tournament in 2 weeks' time.
We made a few mistakes, especially day one, early on today. And thankfully, those are mistakes we would have made at our own tournament in Hong Kong had we not been here, go through that process. To come away with the plate, I think it was, the plate, whatever it was, but we were happy to win, and the boys have had a great time here.
And now for the match that everyone had hoped would have been the final, but still a great prospect to be looking forward to, the plate final between the Zimbabwe Cheetahs and Kenya.
Great to see both sides getting together in true rugby sportsmanlike fashion. Kenya in the red jerseys, expected to dominate possession, but they come around and it's a try for Lucky Sitole.
Dreadful pass that Oscar Ayodi got right in front of his face, and he had virtually no chance to catch that one.
It's a great joy for the Zimbabwean spectators. Sitole right up with the play, and high fives all around.
Just shows you how important it is to follow up.
Conversion, a difficult one, is high and handsome. So great joy for the Zimbabwean spectators, terrific enthusiasm in the crowd. Zimbabwe on the attack again. Kenya under a lot of pressure here. It's a great race away there by Rabachitla Quindo.
Turnover ball though.
From these kickoffs, important, and well, just a hoof into row J, and Zim win the game.
A great confidence booster for the Zimbabwe Cheetahs ahead of the Hong Kong Sevens, where they will face the Cook Islands, Mexico and the Philippines.
Yeah, the level this year was really good. Really tough to get the level up. We've been doing some hard work as well ourselves, there's Zim. So good to get to where we got to. There's nothing like playing sevens. You can't, no matter how much practice you do, it's actually the game time that really prepares you well. So hopefully this is going to take us well into Hong Kong.
Jacques Leitao, certainly a man who is a seven stalwart in Zimbabwe's rugby and led his team with distinction. Into the cup final, a star-studded South African elite performance squad with 7 fully capped Blitzbokke in the squad and coached by Paul True. Their opponents, the underdogs, all the way from Potchefstroom after a 24-hour bus trip, the Leopards.
The South Africans into an early lead. Well, both sides are South African, but this is the development side under the coaching of Paul True. So Lima 5 points to nil. Good pressure there by Werner Kok. He's a real talent, is Werner Kok, in coming up through the sevens ranks. A lot of backs playing amongst the forwards. One of them is this fella, Philip Snyman. Desperate defence by Bok Barnard for the Leopards. Oh, there's a space enough around that blind side for Vivia Stradum to yet again get points on the board for the development team. You see, you can't afford to do that in sevens rugby and let the ball get a little bit scrappy, because immediately you're under pressure. But Albert Bucker did pretty well. You see, they're comfortable on defence here on the development side as they snatch the ball again away, and it comes for Werner Kok, and the long ball out for Ulengo. And the Leopards have no answer at this point.
Donnie Gerbero's right, pace will always beat the man.
He was so simple about it, Donnie. He just said, what's the problem? You've got to be quick and you just run into space. Unusual boot away. But it's Mbavani who gives chase. Desperate run across the field by Cupido. But Mbavani's tenacity has paid off.
A nice little touch with the boot there. Just got enough on it to make it sit up for him.
Well, the dominance of possession for the South African development side has really put the Leopards under pressure, and Vieja Stradom gets yet another try in what is proving to be a one-sided final.
You can tell that they've worked hard on the surface, because as he went over, he cramped.
29 points to 0, the South African side. Well, one would expect this. Now it's Jason Creel and the Leopards, I'm afraid. They're probably a little bit of a pick-up side, and they have no answer to the organisation of the South African development team. Scrum under pressure, difficult ball for LaRue, and away he goes, Brandon Asherwood.
So a really convincing victory for the South Africans over the luckless Leopards.
I think this is the second time that we came to Zim. Last year we lost in the semi-final against them, and I think it was just good for us, to have gone to the final and to have beaten Zim, especially in the semi-final. Probably our toughest game. But yeah, what a good exercise for us. To test the youngsters and see if they can take the pressure, they can play at this level. And we train a lot in Stellenbosch, but you're not going to get better practice than playing tournaments.
I think some of the boys came in with a bit of, they didn't really have much confidence, and throughout the tournament the boys just played better and better, and they showed what they're capable of, and coming out here and doing what they did in the final just proves exactly what they're made of. Coming out in a tournament like this, I think it's important. We're preparing for the bigger one in Hong Kong, so just to iron out all the creases and do the best that we possibly can, I think it's important for the whole team.
A valuable exercise for Stephen Hunt and his team, receiving the trophy from John Falkenberg, the president of the Zimbabwe Rugby Union, who can be extremely proud of their work and the work that the team has done to put on a superb tournament. Silverware for 2 Zimbabwe teams, the Cheetahs with the plate and the bowl for the Goshawks. Reward also for Hong Kong, who walked away with a shield, and along with Georgia made a huge contribution to the tournament. The cup to a well-deserved SA EPD side. For Hugh Bladen, this is Arnold Getz saying, thanks for watching. The Zimbabwe International Sevens Tournament was brought to you by Spar, NMB Bank and Lion Lager.